And we are live. Welcome to Office Hours with Arrow, a LinkedIn Live event hosted by Arrow leaders who care about what senior living looks like. I'm your host and producer, Aaron Nieson. Today, I'm joined by the talented and amazing marketing leader, and I'm not just saying that because she is my boss, Shannon Novak. Shannon,
Oh
thank
my
you
gosh.
so much for joining me. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, first, you definitely just said that because I'm your boss. Second, as Aaron said, I'm Shannon Novak. I'm a wildly talented leader of the marketing department here at Arrow Senior Living. And I think that really covers it. I don't know what else we could possibly need to know about me. I'm really excited about our topic, though. I'll tell you that.
What is our topic? What a segue. Way to tee it up. What is our topic today?
Well, wouldn't you like to know? It is all about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and our Marvel movie weekends that we are hosting in all of our communities right now and have been hosting for, I think, the last 57 weeks straight. Is that right?
Yeah. We've been doing it for a year plus now, and we are about a quarter of the way through the Marvel movies.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think we're in week 6 now. Week 6
That's
of the Marvel
that's
movie
probably
marathon,
more accurate than what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on like movie number 13 and 14 or something like that, or maybe we've done 6. We should probably have known that going into this.
I think this is a more accurate depiction of who we are as people, and I think if we're not here to be transparent, what are we here for?
I haven't been counting, but I know that they just watched Guardians of the Galaxy volumes 1 and 2 this past weekend.
Yes.
And coming up this weekend is going to be Avengers Age of Ultron and Ant-Man. That's where I know that. I don't know the number there, but I know that.
You're doing great. I think that's enough. We're
else?
not mathletes. We're marketers.
That's right. We need to know dorky superhero stuff, not numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've sort of been talking about it a little bit, but why don't you explain to those who are not in the know, what is the Marvel movie marathon that we were doing?
Okay. So guys, I don't know if anybody knows, but winter is pretty cold and miserable. I myself have not been outside in at least 2 days. It's been negative degrees out. And so we thought, what better time than to give everybody a bunch of movies to watch? Because what else are you doing? You're not going out. This is a great time to watch movies. And what the Marvel Cinematic Universe gives us, however 20 years in, it feels like, is a lot of movies to watch that are all tied together. So our COO, Amanda Tweeten, this is one of her favorite things to do during the winter. And she has started introducing her in-laws to it as well. And she's like, who else would probably enjoy this? Residents and staff. So we were like, let's do it. It's cold outside. What else are we doing? And that was the launch. That's how we got here.
And the answer is we're doing a lot. We're very busy, but we're very excited to do this also because it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you say 20 years, it sounds like an exaggeration, but we are 17 years into Marvel movies. The first one came out in 2008. So it came out when I was 22 years old. I was a doofus in college, and now I'm a doofus working for Arrow with a mortgage and an 8-year-old. And
yeah,
it's a totally different person, but still enjoying these crazy Marvel movies.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so good. And there are people who haven't seen them, out in the world, just like living, not knowing what they're missing. And we're here to help fix that.
Yeah, we're here to drag them in, kicking and screaming if we have to.
Yeah, until they fall in love with it.
Yeah, they're fun movies. I enjoy them. I'm glad we're doing this. I think that these movies are a lot of fun and really exciting. And honestly, they're a cultural touchstone at this point. Like, this has been an endeavor that hasn't been successfully pulled off before. I remember in the 90s watching the Tim Burton Batman movies, and there was, in one of them, they mentioned Metropolis, which is where Superman hangs out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's where Superman hangs out. And like, that's it. But we were so excited because it was just a mention of something that another superhero was doing in another place. And now we have this universe where all of these superheroes interact, and they have all these crazy crossovers, and it gets a little complicated, which is something that comic books struggle with also, but as it gets bigger and bigger. But it's really impressive that they've successfully pulled this off and kept the quality where they have. And it's exciting to show our residents that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool. And this definitely doesn't follow your line of questioning or our plan. But what's really cool is like that thing you got excited about in the 90s when you were just a little nerd kid in the 90s. Like that's because you had an awareness of comic books and the way that like they're in the same universe, because at that time, like that wasn't a common out in the world, like thing that you just were aware of. And the cool thing about the Marvel movies is that they've brought that together, and obviously different. That's DC. This is Marvel. It's a whole other conversation, but it still has taken that idea of what people only knew if they read comic books, and it's made it this very mainstream out in the world. Like you're still definitely a nerd or a geek. I get them confused, but like now you're a nerd or a geek with like a whole bunch of other people instead of just like, a few of you.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
us.
true.
Not that it's just you, obviously.
I know it's not just me. These movies make billions of dollars.
So
I remember when I was young hearing about Comic-Con, and it was literally a place where people went and like traded comic books and talked, and it wasn't a big thing, but it was a thing. Now Comic-Con is this multi-million-dollar event.
Huge.
If not billion, I don't know how much it costs to put on Comic-Con, but it's huge, and movie stars are crawling all over the place, and movies that aren't comic books at all are trying to get into it and like get showcased because there's such a huge audience paying attention to it.
Huge.
Now. It's
huge. Yeah.
So
Comic-Con used to be something I would be like, oh, that could be fun. And now I'm like, there is too much. I can't even begin to process all that's happening there.
Yeah. And that's like the California one in like LA or something. There are smaller Comic-Cons across the country that are more manageable, but that's the big
Listen, I've been watching the lineup for the Kansas City one that's coming up. It is pretty wild. And I'm like, here in Lowell, Missouri.
Hey,
but
I mean, Kansas City is getting a lot of national attention, especially the last few years with the Chiefs doing as well as they have been and everything.
Yeah, I've heard of them. They play a sport.
But, yeah. So back to let's shift a little bit. So we keep talking about this, obviously. So Arrow's always looking for ways to serve our current resident base while looking to the future also. How does our Marvel movie marathon accomplish that goal, assist us in that goal?
I'm so glad you asked. And I think it ties into one of my aside like wander off things I already did. So Marvel and these characters have been around since Captain America came out in the 1940s. Like our current residents were typically born between the 20s and the 40s. And so this was something that existed when they were kids or when they were first starting to have kids. Like these characters were out in the world fighting crime out in their, grocery store magazine stands. And so in that capacity, they've been around for the whole lives of our residents. And then you take this, which as we established, these movies started coming out in 2008. So it's taking these characters our current resident base is aware of, or their kids are aware of, or that exist in their world, and they're tying it into something that is coming out in a modern time. So a lot of our, for some of our residents, this is a little more fast paced. It's a little harder to follow. It's a lot going on. But I think we're going to get to this later, so I'm just going to jump into it. But we've also got, we're talking to some of our residents about the experience and getting feedback on ways we can improve and keep it going. And we haven't even talked about the things we're doing, but we'll get there. And one of the ones I'm talking to, Donna, who is a resident who is always in tune with our technology and our virtual events and just an overall delight. It's given her a new connection spot with her kids too. And so, they're a little bit off from our resident base, but not that many years away. And so they know these movies, love these movies, and are excited we're doing this. And it's giving another connection point to our current resident base and tying back to their childhood and bringing in intergenerational guys. It goes all the way down. It goes all the way down.
Yeah. And, the intergenerational aspect of this and the potential for it. I really hope, I don't know the stats, but I really hope that we are bringing in kids and grandkids and even great
Yes.
grandkids to these events because, you know, like I mentioned, when these movies started, I was a college student. Now I got a kid who's 8. 8-year-olds love superheroes. You know,
Oh, yes.
some of the movies might be a little iffy, but we try and make sure that everybody knows what's going on before bringing them
Yeah.
into this. But like, you know, the intergenerational potential for this is astounding because, you know, these superheroes, like mentioned, have been around since the 40s. So like people of all ages are familiar with these characters to some extent or another. And this is a great
Captain
way.
America was in World War II.
Yeah, he's timeless.
Part
I
of
love that. I love that
Yeah.
it's part of his character that he was frozen in ice, and then that means that they can bring him out in the 60s when he did come back,
Yeah.
or they can bring him out in 2010 when he came back in the movies, and it
Yeah.
still works. And he's got those values and the timeless American values of justice and standing up for the marginalized and the little people, and that's very important. And it's good to remind us and have him there as a symbol
Yes.
of something to aspire to.
Yeah. He's the purest of all Avengers.
He is the purest. I got to be careful. I was about to say a spoiler, and
Do not.
we're not even halfway through the Marvel marathon.
Do not.
I gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. I don't want to spoil
it was. I was aware of of Marvel and DC and all of it growing up. And my there's a comment from Kayla if you want to throw it up, but it made me think of this is my nephew who is now like 20. I don't want to talk about it. He's not a baby, as it turns out. He's having a baby. Well, his wife is. But anyway, him running around as a little like 2 to 4-year-old with his giant Hulk smash gloves and his Spider-Man costume. It was like that was his childhood. And like I remember the excitement of going to the Spider-Man movies with him, and like when he was a little kid, like he was in that prime age when they start coming out with these, and going to all of them with him, and just like his pure excitement. And I think that's part of why I love them so much, is just how much he was excited for these to exist and how good they were. And then now I can't stop, you know?
No, I mean, yeah, they do sort of get you, don't they? Also,
They're so endearing and fun.
Yeah, they're endearing and fun, and you got to know what happens next. Like you can't just stop.
Gosh.
What if somebody turns into a Hulk? You gotta see that and know what happens.
You can't just watch Infinity War and then check out. We haven't gotten there yet, but I'm just saying, like, that can't be. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
So, and we've sort of touched on this a little bit. How is Arrow? These are modern movies with modern actors and dialogue and sensibilities, and they're pretty flashy, lots of special effects and things like that. It might be a little intimidating for our residents who are used to old-fashioned, slower paced, very, very measured movies. So how are we making these movies accessible to our residents? Not on top of everything I just mentioned, it's a whole giant interconnected. It's not just one movie that we're like, okay, here we're going to get. This is huge. It's a huge, giant interconnected universe. How are we making it accessible to our residents?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's been following it, I still have to occasionally go back and be like, who was that person again? What did they do? Why do I care about them? And so for our residents who have not been following along the whole time, like, one, they get the perk of they're seeing it all together, so they don't have to think back as far. But yeah, there's a lot going on. And so as we touch, like, you're asking me this question, but really this is you, because I don't know if you know, but Aaron is the man behind the scenes on a lot of this. But what we're doing is we're building in layers to help residents be prepared for what's coming, be reminded of what they have just seen, and then be able to kind of check in and go on all throughout the series. So I don't really want to answer for you. Do you want to talk about some of the things you've been doing to help it happen?
I can talk about it a little bit. So one thing that we have been doing is we make just a little flyer. Make a little flyer that says what the movie is, what's coming up next, and then the communities can fill in when they're having their time, when they're having their viewing. It's just a little tiny synopsis, little blurb about what this movie is and who's in it and things like that. So we have those that get passed out at the communities and set up somewhere. Then I also make the primer videos. These are short videos, usually 5 to 10 minutes. They're getting longer as things get more complicated, but that's kind of why, that's the whole purpose, because things get more complicated, and we want to just, in these videos, I give reminders of events that happened in the past movies that you'll need to know for the upcoming movie, as well as a reminder of characters that you may need to know. And then I also give a spoiler warning and go into a little bit of the plot, so that when this movie starts, for anybody who wants to know a little bit going in, I give some of the plot and some of the things that are happening without giving too much away, because, you know, we still want them to enjoy the surprises. And
it's like a trailer level lead in, like it's not too wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If they want to know more, they can Google it before going in. But so we set those up because, again, it does get complicated. This is sort of our way of doing, if anybody ever reads comic books, the characters in the comics will mention like something that happened, and then there'll be a little editor's note, a little editor's box saying, see this issue of this comic if you want to know more about what's going on. So this is our way of sort of doing that. Like, this is going to happen, and this character is going to show up, and they're from this movie, and they did this. That's what you need to know about this person going in. So that's something else that we also do. And then we also do trivia. We have trivia sheets that they get handed out before the movie, I believe, for residents to fill in and follow along, I think. And then we also incorporate a lot of those questions into our weekly trivia that we do online. And that sort of gives people who watch the movie a little bit of an edge in the weekly trivia. And and also serves as a nice reminder of things that happened and what's going on there and who plays what character and things like that. Because even that gets confusing. There are recasts. Edward Norton got replaced by Mark Ruffalo, and Terrence Howard got replaced by Don Cheadle. You know, and that can get very confusing also.
And there's been a lot of Spider-Man, not in this, but over the past little bit. Like, we've had a lot of guys play Spider-Man.
And not to do too much spoilery stuff, but we're going to need to know that stuff later on, because things get complicated.
Well, and especially when you've got, because you have so many storylines that do intertwine, but you have to start out with their basis before they can intertwine. So especially, I mean, even still, like Guardians of the Galaxy that we just saw, those are brand new characters that at this point you have no idea what they have to do with anybody else or how these planets tie in with anybody else. They're like, they're brand new. So you got to kind of pause. Okay, I saw these characters. Here's a whole new set of character storyline, a whole thing. And then later they're going to come back in, because obviously we're getting together. But yeah, you've got to learn them all in the beginning and then figure out how they all mix together. And some of these cast reminders are going to get pretty long in the very near future.
Age of Ultron, which I just did the primer video for, like doing the cast, like here are the characters that you're going to need to know. I think there was 13 that I listed or something like that. There was a lot of them. And you just mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy, 5 completely new main cast characters, main new heroes. One of them being a talking raccoon.
Really great raccoon.
He's a great raccoon. Bradley Cooper voiced him. He's fantastic.
And he was based on Rocky Raccoon, because our residents are also very familiar with the Beatles. And Rocky Raccoon was the basis for Rocket Raccoon. Obviously, a couple changes.
That's some trivia I did not know, Shannon. I'm learning new things all the time.
But I don't remember why I learned that, but I learned it recently.
It's such a weird concept. Like, it might be a strange thing to try and accept. But I remember when that movie was coming out, I was joking around with my friends about how a talking anthropomorphic raccoon and his talking tree best friend are getting a big screen movie before Wonder Woman did. Like, and that just blew my mind. And it's, you know, it's kind of a testament to Marvel. I don't want to just keep on heaping praise upon them the entire video, but like it's kind of incredible that they made these characters who are like C-list characters. When Marvel started doing this, they didn't have Spider-Man. They had given the license out to a different studio. They didn't have the X-Men. They didn't have the Hulk even, really. Like, they had a weird licensing thing, but those were like the big Marvel heroes. And so to make this entire giant cinematic universe based off of Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, who were considered like not the big hitters, is also all the more impressive. And I think
up until Oh yeah, no. I'm gonna tangent with you for a second. Up until Mark Ruffalo's Hulk was not like they were not nailing those Hulk movies. They were okay. Like I didn't hate them, but like his Hulk is I think the one that finally solved Hulk, you know? So it was like
Mhm.
they tried, and I think this is also, you mentioned Wonder Woman, like what Marvel has done has also been really helpful for DC. We're going off on a whole, I don't know. We probably should have brought someone else in to manage us in this, but it has elevated the whole game. And so, what's next? But
Yeah.
anyway, that's not where we are. Where we are right now is how we're introducing our residents, making it accessible when there's so much to track. And
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't need to
Aaron is
start talking
doing,
about DC comics
oh
and
my gosh,
movies
no, there's no
or
time. We only have like
what was
9 minutes left. But yeah, Aaron has done a lot of the work in the background to help piece these things together. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else in the comments, but like they're even helpful for me as the reminder sometimes. I've been like, oh yeah, I forgot that they're in there. So see, Kayla knows. Kayla knows. You're doing great, Aaron. Um, but
okay.
anyway, okay.
As you just mentioned, we got about 9 minutes left, so we got to start wrapping it up.
I know.
Let's go ahead and dig into a little bit, just real quick. Let's touch on how have residents received the Marvel movie marathon?
I'm going to be honest. It has been a slow uptake. It has been a slow uptake, which honestly we expected because of everything we just talked about. It's a lot to take in. It's new. It's not necessarily the types of movies like we definitely have residents who watch these types of movies. We also have a lot who don't. And so it is a very slow climb, but we knew that when we started because we are introducing something that in this format is new to our residents. And so I have been like, Donna is always my go-to. I know everybody kind of has their go-to resident. Donna is my go-to resident for these things. So I've been talking through with her, like getting her feedback. What is she running into? Is she watching the primers? Are they helping her? I know she's doing the trivia because I'm doing trivia in an hour and she preps for trivia. So she is doing the trivia. So she's ready. And so, that is part of this is not everything we do the first time we do it is going to be a hit. It is about laying groundwork and figuring out how to solve it and improve upon it for the future, because we are in a space where we are in a transition between one generation of residents and the next. And so we want to make sure that we can provide for the residents we have, but we also want to make sure that we are providing things that are for that next generation of our residents that are coming in. And where do we find that middle ground, and how do we make our communities a place that you want to live regardless of which of these generations you're in, and how we can do that. And so yeah, we're working through it. We're improving. It is not a huge number of residents that are watching and engaging with it right now. And that's okay. Like a lot of what we do, we're looking at the angle of like, did we get one new person engaged who wasn't engaged before? Like that is where we start, because we have so many different residents with so many different interests, and we just want to make sure there is something for everybody. Something for everybody. And this is our start with that. Like we talk a lot about holiday cheer. The first year of holiday cheer was bumpy. And now we've got residents who suggest things for cheer that they'd like to see in it, or could we do something like this, or let's change this. I didn't love it. Like at this point, we've got residents who are engaged with it that do just offer suggestions in a helpful way, so that we can keep evolving and improving it. And that's, this is our first year of holiday cheer. But in Marvel version.
Yes, absolutely. So if we do this again, if we decide to make this a yearly thing or buy it annually or something like that, what would we do differently? How would we build upon it? How would we get more people brought in, and their kids and their grandkids and things like that?
Well, I think one thing is, like this year we are doing a ton of groundwork. I don't know if you've noticed a difference in what you're working on the daily. But if we do it again, a lot of the groundwork is already there. And so a lot of the pieces can be introduced sooner, and we'll have staff and we'll have residents who have kind of had a familiarity, so that like the conversation with Donna, like Donna hadn't seen the primers. She didn't know they existed. And I'm like, Donna, here are the primers so that she can start, watching them, and I can check back in with her and being like, did that help? What else could we do? And so the middle phase is going to those residents who did try to engage and going to those teams that were struggling and figuring out where was it so that we can build in that groundwork for the next time. Do we get the primers out sooner? Do we get the trivia out sooner? How do we connect with the residents more directly? How can we get more team members excited? Because you know that there are staff in every one of our communities that are like, can I watch the Marvel movies? I'll come in. I want to watch Kayla's been messaging. Kayla had not watched the Marvel movies before. I don't know who she even is. And so this is her first time. And so now she can also, we're building advocates for it because we are introducing people on our own teams to it too. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know yet what we need to change because we're getting the feedback in real time.
Well, speaking of Kayla, yeah, we'll figure it out as we go. We're going to build upon
that's what we do.
We've got all of these wonderful primers in the can already. So if we do it again next year, then we won't have to redo those.
No, you'll just have to add.
Yeah. And speaking of Kayla, and this will bring us to our last question here. Kayla says that her favorite is Black Widow. She's ahead of us. She's ahead of the Marvel of the community.
Don't tell anybody.
She's told everybody. She's told the world, and I'm broadcasting it even farther. So Shannon, of the movies we've watched so far, what's your favorite one? And then we'll also go into what's your favorite to come, because you've seen a lot of these.
Yeah, I think I mean everything except the one that just opened. I've not seen the brand new one, but we haven't watched it yet, so it doesn't matter. That's tough. So I am very much I love all of them, but in my heart, I will always love Iron Man because it was what kicked it off, and it was such a cool concept. And Robert Downey Jr. reemerging from the depths and reigniting his career. I loved that. And he was so funny and witty. And so that's always going to be a favorite. And same with the first Avengers, the very first one of the Avengers movies. That is probably the one I've watched the most because it brings me so much joy. But then Guardians has the best soundtrack, but it's probably for the first Avengers movie, not to be confused with Captain America, the first Avenger, because that's different. But Avengers or Iron Man. What about you though? What about you?
Very similar. Iron Man is one of my favorites. It's rewatching it at the beginning of this. I was reminded, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I was like, I totally get why this kicked off a huge cinematic universe. And it wasn't a huge hit when it first came out. It was a hit, but it wasn't it wasn't a $1 billion movie like a lot of the Marvel movies are expected to be. But it was a big enough hit because Robert Downey Jr. He was incredible in the role. He fit it perfectly. There was you can't imagine somebody else playing that role now. And there's a reason he was getting $40 million per movie later on. But Iron Man and Avengers are amazing movies. My favorite is definitely, of the ones we've watched, Guardians of the Galaxy. I love James Gunn as a filmmaker. He's the writer and director of Guardians of the Galaxy, all 3 of the movies, and they are my favorites. The first one's excellent. I'm really interested. He just took over the DC universe, and I'm really interested to see what he's going to do with that. But Guardians of the Galaxy, of the ones we've watched, Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite, hands down. What about upcoming, Shannon? What do you got before we say goodbye here?
Before we say goodbye, so one that is in my heart, and I do not know what week it is, but Thor Ragnarok. I just love that movie because I feel like what they did with that one is they noticed that the Thor movies seemingly they did not get the love some of the others did. And I feel like they looked at it and they kind of reinvented it and just made such a more fun and engaging Thor. And I just love the evolution that went through. But let me tell you which one I don't love. I don't love Infinity War.
I don't know what to say to that.
I know, but it's true. It's true. Goodness. And here's why. I'm not going to say it in a spoilers way. I'm not going to say it in a spoilers way.
Okay.
It leaves, and I don't think people today will have the struggle that I did, but it leaves on the most massive cliffhanger of any Marvel movie. And back in the day when I watched it, I then had to wait 2 years 2 years to find out what was going to happen. And it was a horrible 2 years.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's valid. I hear you. I understand you.
Yeah.
You're wrong. Infinity War is amazing. It's really good. It is kind of crummy that it ends on a cliffhanger, but that's honestly the one that I'm looking forward to watching the most upcoming, because it's just so good. Although there are some excellent ones, but I don't need to go into it. It's time. We're already over time. But yeah, Infinity War is what I'm looking forward to watching again next.
No, you're wrong. Ugh, that movie.
But that's it. We got to go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Shannon, for sitting down and nerding out with me for a half hour about this.
It was so much fun.
It's been so much fun. This whole cinematic marathon has been so much fun, and I hope more and more come and join. And and thank you, everybody, so much for watching out there at home. Appreciate you joining us. And
thanks, guys.